Hey, hello guys, good morning.
Hey,
Good
good morning.
morning.
Hey, good morning everybody. Sorry, I was talking on mute. So can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. So just give me 1 minute, we'll get started. Hey, hi, good morning. Uh,
Good morning, Dixon.
hey, good morning, Devansh. All right, so let us go ahead and get started. Srinivas sir, can we get started?
Yes, sir. We are good to start.
Okay, all right. So yesterday I did tell you that we need to install Mirth Connect. So a couple of them reached out to me that there is some issue. So we'll quickly take a look at that to make sure that everyone has the installation done. Uh, did anyone try? Did anyone successfully install the Mirth Connect?
Yes, I installed.
Okay, Dhruv was able to install it. All right.
I also installed it.
Okay, Devans also installed it. Anyone has any issues?
No, I was able to install. This is Saujanya.
Okay, great, great.
I wasn't able to install. This is a net. I got
Annette,
an error
hey.
while trying to install Java, and I
Okay.
couldn't figure it out.
Okay, all right.
Mhm.
So yeah, we'll take a look at that. And who else has issues? Riturva, were you able to install it?
Yes, I did.
Okay, great. So Annette, I will get in touch with you maybe after fire session that I have
Okay,
separately. We'll take a look at what the problem is. Okay.
sure.
All right. So let us go ahead and get started. So whenever you install Mirth Connect, there are three components that you'll get. Yesterday I told you, right? One is Mirth Connect Administrator Launcher. Second one is Mirth Connect Server Manager, and the third one is Mirth Connect Actual Administrator. So these are the three components that you get when you install Mirth Connect installation. So first, let's begin with what is Mirth Connect Server Manager and Mirth Connect Administrator. This is a add-on tool. Mirth Connect Administrator Launcher is an add-on tool, but the actual software is residing with Mirth Connect Server and Mirth Connect Administrator. Okay, so when you click on Mirth Connect Server Manager, apparently this will open up the server console or server window in your system tray. Okay, so let me go ahead and share my other screen where I can show you where to find it. Just give me 1 minute. All right, can you see my primary screen where I'm sharing my PPT presentation?
Yes,
Yes.
Dixon.
Okay, all right. So if you click on here in the system tray, you'll be able to see this icon Mirth Connect, right? When you double click on that, that will open up the Mirth Connect Server Manager for you. Okay, so let's go ahead and explore this Mirth Connect Server Manager and understand what all options we have. And then we will jump on to Mirth Connect Administrator. So in Mirth Connect Server Manager, you mainly will have four tabs, service, server, database, and info. If you're using a Mac, then you will not have server. Annette, by any way, are you using Mac or you have Windows laptop or Windows machine?
I have Windows.
Windows, okay, all right. So we see that we have four tabs. If you're using Windows, you will not see this service tab anyway. Sorry, if you're using Mac, you will not see this service tab anyway. So first tab, service tab will help you to go ahead and uh, manage your service. Apparently, whenever you want to run the Mirth Connect Server Manager application, there is a Windows service that will actually help you to start, stop, and run it. So you can manage that from here. You can stop the service, you can restart the service, you can start if it is stopped, or you can refresh. Another place where you can go ahead and access this is services.msc. So this services app, if you open that, so within this services tab, all the applications that you have will have one or the other type of service here, whether it is SQL, whether it is Mirth Connect, or any other software that you install. So in this, we'll search for Mirth Connect. So here you can see that we have Mirth Connect service running, and we can see that we have start and stop and restart. So if you stop this, you'll get an option to start. Currently, the status of this particular service is running. Okay, so this is how we determine whether a server is running or not. If your server is not running, it will clearly show up in the Mirth Connect Server Manager and that services window. Okay. Next, we have server tab. So in the server tab, you'll configure your port numbers. Apparently, when you install, you will install it to the default port numbers. You will have 8080 as the HTTP port, and you have 8443 as the secure port. If your internal applications are not using 8080, then you can have Mirth Connect running on the same port numbers. You don't need to change anything. But apparently down the line, if your application is using 8080 already, any of your software applications, for example, I'm using a MAMP server, and that server uses 8080 already on my system. So I change the port number to 8090 just to make sure that I use a different port, and I am able to have a connect to the server, Mirth Connect server. And here you have log levels which you can adjust. So there are various log levels, database log level. In case if there is any change, what is the log level you have to register. Main log level will tell you overall log level of the server. So these logs will help us to go ahead and determine what the problem with the server is in case if there is any issue. So you can see that we have all the log files. We save around 10 log files. I think around 20 log files of Mirth Connect. So if you want to view it, you can just double click on it, and that will tell you what's happening with the server. So you can see that we have all the various kinds of log file here, and you have various things within that log file, whether the server got started, did not get started, if the server did not get started, why it did not get started. We can refer to this and try to figure out why we have certain problem with the server. Okay. Next, we have database. Every application will have its own database as well, right? Mirth is no exception. Mirth, the application that you see is just a mirror, just a front-end organized way of viewing the data, but the actual data is present within the database of Mirth Connect, right? So whenever you want to go ahead and understand, or whenever you want to go ahead and um, look for the data, you can review the database. So Mirth natively supports 5 different kinds of databases. So let's take a look at that. If you click on this drop down, you can see that we have Derby. Derby is a flat file system. So that when you install your Mirth Connect, this is what you get. You'll get Derby. Right now, don't go ahead and change your database connection. I'll tell you how you can change it at a future point of time. Right now, let it be Derby. Derby is dedicated for training. If you are moving to production, that's when you have to configure your different database altogether. You can see that we have Postgres that is supported, you have MySQL, you have Oracle, you have SQL Server, and based on the server that you choose, you may go ahead and configure your database connection and connect to the DB. Let me quickly show you how the database would look like, what all tables we have, a quick review on that. So while that SQL is opening, let's look at the last tab. So in the last tab, you will see which version of server you are using. Give me a minute, guys. All right. In the last tab, you would be seeing which server version you are using, what is the server ID, what Java version your application is running on. Okay. So these are the few things that you will be seeing in the server manager. So basically server manager is used to manage your server. Okay. So now let us look at the database. So whenever you want to connect to a specific database, you can go ahead and create a DB like this, which is called as Mirth DB. Let me quickly check which DB I am connected to right now. So I'm connected to Mirth DB here. So if I expand, I have all the list of tables that are part of that are created over a period of time for various specific channels. So this is the backend of Mirth Connect. All right. So now when we want to launch the application, how do we launch it? So here you see that we have administrator window. You click on that and it will open up a web page like this. Okay, and it will ask you to download this webstart.jnlp. Okay, let me download that. Let me save it. So I was able to save it. Now let me double click on that. And once I double click on that, right now my Java version is out of date. That's the reason it's shooting up an error, which I can update later. But once you allow it to go ahead and proceed further, it will go ahead and uh, start our Mirth Connect application. Okay, it's taking a bit, so please bear with me. All right, yeah, it was running behind the scenes. So we have got this port number. It's saying that it's going to start on localhost 8090. So I'll say run. It will ask for another prompt. Just click run. So it will ask twice or thrice. So once you do that, it will present you with the login window. So you have to go ahead and provide the username and password here. So I would say admin. This is the default username and password that you would be using in order to log into Mirth Connect. I would recommend not changing this password because if you change it, there is no way of retrieval. You may have to go ahead and reinstall the entire thing again. So you have to be very careful with the admin password. Okay, so this is how the window looks like as soon as you log in. So this is the server, and you can see that we have many different options within the server, which we'll go through one by one. But this is the dashboard window, which you'll be mainly looking at. And here, if you see any channel running, it means that these are the active channels that are currently running. So even if this is just a client, okay? Even if you close this, these channels will be running behind the scenes. Okay, because server is running all the time, right? So just keep in mind that this is just a client which will help us to actually go ahead and create interfaces, develop interfaces, deploy them, see the status, look at the messages that have been transacted through the interfaces and all. Okay, so that being said, let us go ahead and see what is administrator launcher. So what happened when we clicked on this administrator button? We'll click on it once again and see. So here you see that it says, if you go back and look at the URL, it says localhost 8090/webstart.jnlp, right? So that is the URL that is used to go ahead and launch this JNLP file. Okay, what is JNLP file? You have, this is the launching file, that's all, which will help us to launch the application. So this is one way of launching it using the Mirth Connect Server Manager. But we cannot always access Mirth Connect Server Manager. Let's say you have a server which is running on Linux. You won't be having Mirth Connect Server Manager there, right? Yeah, so in such cases, how do you go ahead and launch it? So you will go ahead and provide the URL in the browser itself, and you will click on hit enter, and that will go ahead and download the JNLP file for you. Alternate choice or alternate route is to go ahead and use Mirth Connect Administrator Launcher. So when you use Mirth Connect Administrator Launcher, this is, as I said, this is an add-on tool which will help you to go ahead and launch the same application. So as you can see here, we have same HTTP localhost 8090 webstart.jnlp. So when you provide this or this one and click on launch, it will go ahead and launch the application for you. Let me show. So this is just the tool to launch the application, but we have to know the URL on which the server is running. Okay, if you do not know the URL on which the server is running, we won't be able to provide the correct details here. Okay, so that did pop up this login window, and I can provide my username and password and log into the Mirth Connect application. Okay, as I am already logged in, I'm not going to log in again. All right, so any questions so far?
Yes, Dixon. Dixon, in your Mirth Connect workbench, which you have opened from start, there were different connection like HTTP, HTTPS, and many more. So by giving a different URL, different database will open.
These are other instances of various clients that I am working with. So let's say you have 10 Mirth Connect servers, right?
Hmm.
So 10 Mirth Connect servers are present on different server instances. So if I want to connect to them at once, I can go ahead and save all the connections in that Mirth Connect administrator and administrator launcher, and I can go ahead and launch any one of them at any given point of time.
Okay. DB will be same and database will be, means
No,
database
no,
name will be
they
different.
are different servers altogether.
Okay.
So let's say I'm working with 5 to 7 different hospitals right now. Each
Okay.
hospital will have their own server, right?
Okay.
So I can either have the URL launched through the web browser, or I can maintain a consolidated list on this tool, on administrator launcher tool, so that I can have everything at one place. Whenever I want to go ahead and launch, I can go ahead and launch it.
Got it. Got it. Thanks.
No problem. Any other questions from anyone before we jump into the application tour? Okay, great. So let's proceed. So now this is the application that we usually get to see whenever you launch into the application. So the way we are going to explore is we'll go ahead and these are the main options or main menu options that you see in any Mirth Connect server, or sorry, any Mirth Connect application. So what we'll do, we'll go through each window one by one, and we will see what all options we have in each window and how to navigate and what are the important things that we need to know. Even before we start the development, we have to know a few things, right? We will understand all of those aspects, and then we will jump into channels window. We'll try to understand what all things that we have here in the application, and then we will begin creating a channel. Okay. And during that progress of creating the channel, we'll get to know a lot of things. So we'll progress one by one. We'll try to see what all options we have in summary. How do you configure your source? How do you configure your destination? How do you configure scripts? What is the importance of that? And during this course, we may have a lot of options on the left-hand side as well, which we should be aware of while building our channels. So it's going to be a heavy tour to understand the applications and functionality at the same time. And also, once we understand the basic navigation of the application, then we'll jump into how to go ahead and create channels and how to go ahead and develop an interface. So we'll go ahead and take a look at that as well. So first, let's get to the dashboard. We'll see what all we need to cover in the dashboard. So as you can see, every dashboard is divided into 2 grids. The upper grid will show you all the list of channels that are actively running right now. Each channel represents one interface, which means one source connection to one destination connection or one source connection to multiple destination connections if there are. Okay. And there are 2 channels here. One is HTTP listener channel, which is listening on an HTTP host, and another one is HTTP sender channel. But if you go to channels list, actually I have a lot of channels which are disabled right now. I am not running these interfaces because this is a training server. Okay, these I create interfaces during the training and show the resources on how we can go ahead and create the interfaces and all, right? So that way I have created all of these. I just need to clean up a little. But yeah, these are the interfaces that we will usually see. But right now there are only two interfaces out of, let's see how many interfaces that I have. I have 106 channels that are actively running, sorry, that are present on this Mirth Connect instance. But right now I am running only two of them. Okay. So here on the right hand side, you will see few statistics. And this will help us to determine how many number of messages got processed, how many number of messages got filtered, queued, sent, and all, and errored and all. So these numbers will really help us to determine whether an interface is running or not. If you want to determine whether an interface is running or not, you can just monitor these numbers, and if the numbers are increasing, then we will understand that yes, we are receiving the messages and interfaces are functional and working fine. All right. So next we have connection tab, which will tell you whether this particular interface is connected on the source or destination side. Now, if you remember, if we go back to our presentation, I told you that every channel will have two components, source component and destination component, right? These are the two components that we will see. Let's see how it shows up here. So if you expand the channel configuration, you can see that we have source component, we have destination component. If you expand this channel, you can see that you have source component and destination component. Okay. So there are two channels overall. So every channel will have two components at the minimum. Source is compulsory. Either one destination or more than one destination can be seen, depending on what kind of channel you are running, depending on what kind of configurations you have. They operate independently but are always connected with each other. So source component will operate independently and then pass on the message to destination component. Destination will receive the message from source. It will operate on that particular message, and then destination will do its work of delivering the message to certain destination. Okay, so that's how the source and destination will work hand in hand, but both of them are independent. Okay, always remember that both of them are independent, which are sticked together to work as one single channel. All right, we'll go ahead and take a look at a deeper look in the upcoming slides. We will talk about how the message flow is, how they are independent from each other. Okay, we'll get to that point in a bit. And then you have something called as a revision, very important column for us to understand whether there is a difference between the channel that is currently running and the channel that is actively deployed. So I'll practically show you what is that revision delta and how it is helpful for us to determine whether we have latest changes incorporated into the channel that is actively running. Okay. And then just give me 1 minute, guys.
Hello.
Hey. Hey, just give me 1 minute, okay?
Okay.
All right. Sorry about that. So let us continue. So we'll take a look at the revision of delta button down the line when we actually get to creating channels, and then we can see the difference is actually real time. Okay. So last deployed date and time will tell you that um, when exactly the channel got activated last time. So you can see that it's showing 3:28 at 6:42 a.m. That's where I was able to go ahead and run my or restart. I had to restart my server. So whenever you restart your server, this channel will get deployed automatically. So we'll talk about that factor as well. But at the end of the day, you will get to see when exactly the channel got activated, right? And then here you have something called a status. Status will tell you whether the channel is started, which means it is running actively or not. You can also see other statuses like when you right click on it, you have few options to manage your channel, right? Or those are the same list of options that you can see on your left hand side. So you have an option called as stop, right? If I stop the channel, the entire channel is stopped. Okay. You can also start the channel, and if you want, you can also pause the channel. So when you click on pause, it is paused. So now the main question is, what is the difference between pause and stop, right? So if you expand and take a look at that, you will understand the difference. When you actually stop the channel, it is stopping both the components of that channel, source and destination. But when you actually click on pause, then only one of the components is stopped, which is nothing but source. So what is it doing? It is basically shutting down the openings of the source side connection so that you won't receive more number of messages. Let's see why we usually need this and what points we would use this. So there are a couple of scenarios where this is very helpful. Let's say you are working on a a project, and you see that the has gone live, and you see that there are a lot of messages that came in all of a sudden, and you don't want to receive any more messages until all of them are processed. So in such cases, what you can do is you can go ahead and click on this paused status so that the source side connections will be stopped, and you don't need to go ahead and start the interfaces until all the messages are processed. Okay. So that is one thing that you can do. Second thing is, in case if you want to test your interfaces, you may want to stop the messages that you receive from the other side. Okay. So if you have such kind of situations where you want to test the interfaces and stop the connections on the other side, uh, you can go ahead and use this pause status and then process a message internally. For example, if I go to this channel, I have list of messages now. Let's say this is some data that I have. I want to process the message and see. So every channel will have a simulator where you can send that message and say that process the message. Okay. So you can see that the latest date time 7:35, 7:34, my date and time. We have processed the message. So this will help us to go ahead and see what is happening with your message specifically without receiving more number of messages from the source side. Okay. So those are the advantages of having paused as a status by stopping only the source component of the interface. Now, when you look at the lower half of the section, here you can see three tabs. One is server log, one is connection log, one is global maps. So server log will tell you anything that is happening with the server, whether it may be an info, which is nothing but a general information that you may want to view. Like the way you can see here, I have started the interfaces on 328, right? I've started the server on 328. So it's saying that the server got started, it is listening on so and so port number and so IP addresses and all, right? Right now, in case if there is any error, you can see that at 7:24 there was a connection attempt made to connect to my interface and there is some sort of error. Okay, in this way you can go ahead and see errors, debugs, information in the server log. Okay, so whenever we are working with interfaces, if there are any errors with the interfaces, we'll be coming to this server log and taking a look at it. If you are writing some debug logger statements, then we will be coming here and taking a look at that loggers. So we will see how to write a debugger and how to view the trial here in the server log down the line. But this is one of the main places which will help us to go ahead and troubleshoot what is happening with the interface in case if there are any issues. Okay. Then you go to connection log. In the connection log, you will see that once you select a certain channel, it will tell you what is the connection status of that particular channel. If the channel is running, if the channel has received any messages, if the channel has sent any messages. Now, just now I have sent one message, right? So it's showing that log here that we have tried to send a message. So connection log will help us to determine whether the channel is running or not. Next, we have global maps. We'll talk about global maps down the line. So uh, these are global variables that you can make use of. We'll be creating them down the line and we'll take a look at it. So there is a banner in between the upper grid and the lower grid. So it will help you to filter the channels. So let's say I type the channel, it will give me the list of channel names and help me to filter and take a look at only that one channel specifically. Okay, I can go ahead and delete that. And here you have current statistics and lifetime statistics, right? What do you mean by that? The statistical numbers that you're seeing here are the numbers from a certain checkpoint. Meaning, let me show that. Right now I have so many numbers, right? At times you may want to reset this counter. For example, there is a QA team who is testing the interfaces. They may want to know how many number of messages are getting processed. So what they do, they can make a note of the current numbers, which is a bad way of doing. Uh, or they can go ahead and use this option called clear statistics. So when I click on clear statistics, it will give me an option asking what all you want to clear. I will invert the selection, select everything and click on OK. Now you can see that all the numbers got reset back to 0, right? You can go ahead and select multiple channels as well if you want to and clear the statistics of all the channels at once. I have cleared only for one channel right now. So the counters are reset and I can begin my testing. I can process huge chunk of messages and see how it is performing. Okay. Now that being said, would it delete the data that is present within the channel? Let's see. If I go into the channel, I can view the messages that got processed still, which means we are only resetting the counter. We are not resetting or deleting the data or deleting the messages that have been transacted through the channel. Okay. Second thing, now current statistics is the statistics that will show from the point when you cleared or when you reset the counters. Okay, let's say I have reset now. So going forward, it will show me the numbers from 7:38 a.m. today morning to the future. Okay, but if you want to see the lifetime statistic, which means since the interface got created, from that point onwards, if you see how many messages got processed, then you will click on this lifetime statistics. That will show you how many number of messages got processed right from the beginning till now, provided the messages are in the channel. If the messages are not there, then it will not show up. Okay. Now here you have two options. These are called as tags. So we'll talk about tags down the line when we talk about creating a channel. But we have one last option here called as view. So right now I am in the channel view, meaning you are seeing all the channels in a sequential manner. You can go ahead and rearrange them by name, rearrange them by status or data type if you want to, or name, or whatever order by options that you have here, ascending, descending and all. But the problem is it is very hard to go ahead and differentiate, or it is very hard to go ahead and search for something. It is very unorganized. And if you have the channel list like this, it will be very difficult to figure out which channel belongs to which client or which channel belongs to which message type, or it's not a better way of managing it. So Mirth has introduced this view called group view. Okay, so if you go ahead and select this icon at the bottom right corner, it shows you groups. If I click on groups, I can see that now I have a lot of groups here. So I have group called training interfaces, trading interfaces. I have group called HL7 interfaces, fire interfaces. So Mirth gives you the flexibility of creating these groups and assigning the channels within those groups. So you can see that there are around 16 channels or maybe 10 channels in this particular group. All right. Similarly, within trading, you have one channel. Within test training group, you have another one channel. Under Malafi, you have around 10 channels and all. Right. So in this way, you can go ahead and have categorizations or grouping of channels the way you want it. Now it depends on you how you want to go ahead and create a group and manage it. There will always be one default group for sure. Anything that is not assigned to any one of the groups will be assigned to a default group. Okay. So how you can manage, how you can create. So there are hundreds of ways how you can manage it. You can manage it based on your input output methodology. You can manage it. Let's say that you want to, you have 10 clients. All the interfaces belonging to one client, you want to put under one group. Okay. So you can create 10 different groups and say that first group is for Apollo Hospital, second group is for global hospitals and so on. Okay. Or you can group the interfaces using their message types. Let's say that I am having 10 hospitals, all of them have registration interfaces, ADT interfaces. I'll say that I'll create a group for ADT interfaces. I'll create a group for MDM interfaces. I'll create a group for ORM interfaces. So all the channels that are relating to ORM processing will be under ORM group. All the channels for ADT processing will be under ADT group and so on. All right. So that is how you go ahead and manage grouping. All right. So how you create a group? You can just create on click new group and say, I want to create Apollo hospitals. Okay, I can click OK. You can write some description if you want to. I can click on OK and it has created a new group. I will save the group changes. So if I want to assign any channel to the group, all that I have to do is choose that channel, click on assign to group and select the group that I want to assign it to. Let's say I want to assign it to Apollo Hospital. I have assigned it to Apollo Hospital group. Okay, and I have to save the group changes. So as simple as that. You can drag and drop as well if you want to. Let's say I want to move it back to CCD test. I can just click and hold and drag and drop to that group and save the group changes. And it's gone there, right? If I want to delete it, select it, delete it and save the changes. So Apollo groups is deleted and it's not being shown anymore. So it's very easy to create groups and manage it. It's all about how you want to organize it and create groups according to your need. Okay. So that is about the dashboard window and little bit about channels window, because if we don't get to the channels window, we cannot understand groups. So now here we can see that we have HL7 group. Under that, we have two different channels. As in when you navigate through each of the channels, you will see that there are options on the left hand side. So we looked at start, stop, and there are a few other options which we'll take a look at along the way as and when we progress. Okay, so any questions on the dashboard window before we jump on to the channels window? Okay, I'm not hearing anything, so let's jump on to the channels. So in the channels window, you will see that we have various columns, and here you will be able to see the channel names. So let me switch back to the channel view, so that will be easy for us to understand the architecture or the design. So you can see that we have names. So here in the name, you will be able to see the channel name very clearly. And you can see that there are two IDs. This ID is called GUID, which is universally unique all over the world. And then you have the next ID, which is called as local ID. This is a regular sequence number that we'll be seeing, which will be assigned to every interface that we have. And then description is something that you give while creating your channel. And then you have your revisions, which I told you. I'll talk about revisions on the way. And you have last deployed. So what is the meaning of deployed? Deployed means activating a channel. So the channels that you're seeing here in the dashboard are active channels that are running. And these channels are active because you have deployed that channel. So let's say now all the list of these channels are in, so they don't have last deployed date and time, which means these channels are not deployed and not active. Let's say I want to go ahead and run this channel. So let me enable that first. So we did not talk about enable and disable. I'll talk about it in a bit. But in order to deploy a channel, you have to have that channel in the enabled status always. So if I want to go ahead and deploy this and run it, then I will go ahead and right click on it, and you have this option called as deploy. You can either right click or you can use the options on the left hand side. So I'll deploy the channel. Now you can see that the channel is getting deployed. It is started and it is actively running. Now whoever wants to go ahead and send any message to this channel, they can go ahead and send it. Okay. Similarly, you can inactivate the channel as well, which is called as undeploy. So you can go to this undeploy option here, undeploy channel, click on undeploy, select that channel and click on undeploy. It will be undeployed. Okay. So last deployed date and time will tell us or help us determine whether a channel is actively running or not. Then you have last modified date and time. If you have made any changes to the channel, then the last modified date and time will show that particular date and time. Now here you have another column called as data types. So what is a data type? Data type will help us to determine which particular format of the message is going to come into the system, right? So it will help us to go ahead and understand whether we are going to receive an HL7 message, whether we are going to receive an XML message or a delimited message and all. So where do you set this up? While creating the channel, you will define. So we'll take a look at that later when we are actually creating a channel. But apparently at a glance, it will help you to understand the incoming format. On the left hand side, you have an option called as status. So status, you have two things that will show up in the status, or two statuses that you can see. One is enabled and disabled. So this is a situation which is introduced to manage your interfaces better. What do I mean by manage your interfaces better? Now you can see that I have 106 channels running in my system, 106 channels present in my system. I'm saying it is present in my system. They are not running, right? So I may create few channels which I anticipate to deploy it in future. I may be working on few channels actively, coding them or enhancing them, but I don't want them to run right now. Maybe I want to run them next month. I am developing them right now on my system. So those kind of channels don't need to get deployed, right? Usually what happens within Mirth Connect is whenever there is an event of server restart, we have looked at the options, right? In the server log, we saw that, sorry, in the Mirth Connect server manager, we saw that we have options to go ahead and stop the server, start the server and all. In case if the server is restarted in any scenario, then all the enabled channels will get deployed. Okay, the default behavior of Mirth Connect is it will deploy all the channels. So let's assume that we don't have this column at all. Okay, let's assume that this is how the Mirth Connect installation, Mirth Connect product was. Okay, there is no enable or disable option. Now what happens? Out of all of these channels, you want only 2 channels to be active. Rest of the channels are in progress of development, enhancement and all. But when the server gets restarted, all the channels will get deployed, which you don't want to happen, right? That is managed with the help of the status. So if you don't want the channel to be deployed on an event of server restart, you set them to disabled so that the channel doesn't run or doesn't deploy at all. Okay. So this is a support related activity or operations related activity where someone has to manage their Mirth Connect instance to make sure that they keep or they put the status of enabled only for the channels which are actively running or which are supposed to be actively running. Okay, so that's the reason why we have this status column. Can you go ahead and change the default behavior of Mirth Connect to not deploy the channels on server restart? Yes, you can go ahead and change that. But if you do that, then in an event of server restart, let's say someone somewhere restarted the server, not Mirth Connect server, but the entire server completely. How would you get to know whether the channels are running or not? So it's not recommended to go ahead and turn it off. It is good to have channels getting deployed automatically, but it is better. So if you have that options automatically enabled, then you have to go ahead and manage your channels with their own statuses. Okay, so that's all about the channels window. So we have few management related options here, which we'll take a look at tomorrow, and we'll continue taking a look at how do we start creating a channel and see how do we configure all of these things. We will understand what is message storage. We'll understand what this slider is, what are the dependencies that we have, what data types we have to adjust. So there's a lot to know in from configuration perspective. So as and when we are learning the configurations, we are also going to understand what is the functional reason for that configuration. And we will also understand what is the technical uh, technical aspect of processing a message, which is related to that particular configuration item. Okay, so we'll go ahead and continue tomorrow. Any questions from anyone? Okay, I am not hearing anything. So let us go ahead and conclude today's session here. We'll continue tomorrow. So if you get some time, try to navigate through the application and all, uh, and we'll continue tomorrow with the rest of the things.
Thank
All right.
you.
Thanks.
Yep. Thanks everyone.
Thanks.
All have a good day.
Okay,
And
Dixon, should I?
I'll message you as soon as I am free. I have another session now.
Okay.
So once that session is done, I will go ahead and message you. What is the time for you right now?
Right now it's 9:23 p.m.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Will it be too late by 10:30?
No, I'll still be up.
Okay. All right. I'll
Uh,
message you.
Okay.
Then we'll connect. Okay.
Okay, thanks.
All right. Thanks. Bye.